You ever feel like the man is keeping you down? Like, you look around at your 9 to 5 job, drinking whatever overpriced coffee it is you drink. You think about all your bills and your car payments and say to yourself, man, screw all this. Screw society's rules. I should become an outlaw or a pirate or something and leave all this behind. Well, the bad news is that if you did any of that, the probability of you ending up dead or in prison is quite high. The good news, however, is that you can always watch a show about the crime life, and boy do I have the anime for you. Featuring pirate mercenaries, violent firefights, and a foul-mouthed chick who dual wields Beretta pistols, say hello to Black Lagoon. The story of Black Lagoon follows protagonist Rakuro Okajima, your typical, meek, Japanese salaryman who clearly hates his boring, soul-crushing job. However, his bleak lifestyle comes to an end when a business trip to Southeast Asia leads to him being taken hostage by a group of modern-day mercenaries/pirates known as Lagoon Company. After a couple of life-changing days with the crew, and being abandoned and betrayed by his former employer, he decides to take up the name Rock and join his former captors in a life of crime. Along with Benny the tech guy, Dutch the easygoing leader, and Revy, the merciless, foul-mouthed gunner, Rock takes on all sorts of jobs around the fictional city of Ranapur and gets better acquainted with the dark underbelly that is all around him. Engaging in everything from violent firefights to nautical battles, and facing up against a variety of enemies such as gangs, cartels, assassins, and even Nazis, there's rarely a moment of peace for the crew of the Black Lagoon. As we follow the series and Rock starts to become used to his new way of life, however, the question still stands. Does he truly belong in the world of ruthless mercenaries? Or is he simply just an outsider seeking thrills and nothing more? So what is there to like about Black Lagoon? Well, first, in case I haven't made it clear already, is that this series is like one big Hollywood action flick in the form of an anime series. I mean, if you want to see something filled with over-the-top action, an endless array of bullets, and all sorts of high-stakes situations for our small crew, Black Lagoon is an exciting series and a whole lot of fun to watch. However, another thing I like about it is that Black Lagoon is basically an action fan's dream come true, but without ever becoming just mindless entertainment. While the series does indeed have a ton of profanity, crude humor, and ultra-violence, there are also dark themes to keep it grounded. Like, you know how I mentioned earlier that whole thing about whether or not Rock belongs in this kind of life? Well, that is something that this show deals with quite a bit, showing how the character struggles to keep his values and philosophies in the face of all the bloodshed and tribulation. It's a show that, despite all the high-octane energy, does make you question stuff like human morality. Finally, another thing to enjoy is how real and fleshed out the characters and universe feel. Whether it's a member of the Black Lagoon crew, one of the crime bosses, or any of the other recurring characters, each character feels like a real-life person with different motivations and personalities. Not only that, but through their various interactions, you really get a feel for all the different relationships in the show. For instance, one of the biggest focuses on the show is the relationship between Rock and Revy. While the two are complete opposites, what with her being a sadistic gun-wielding badass, and him being a more logical thinking negotiator, the chemistry between the two is quite interesting. Though they butt heads a lot at the beginning, over time they learn to rely on each other, with Rock knowing he can always look to Revy when dirty work needs to be done, and Revy knowing she can look to Rock as a moral compass of sorts, and not go off the deep end. Trust me, seeing the way the two develop as teammates, and maybe even more, is quite satisfying. Now, despite all the praise I have towards the show, of course it isn't perfect, so let's talk about low points. One thing that is kind of a low point of the show is that there isn't really an overarching plot, with the show instead being made up of smaller stories that each take up a few episodes. While this isn't necessarily a big problem, and each of the smaller stories that detail a certain job or situation for the crew are quite good, it still feels like a missed opportunity nonetheless. Another low point would arguably be the fact that there never seems to be any consequences for the crew, and the way they get through every situation unscathed can feel a bit silly. I mean, I get it because a lot of action movies and such basically put the protagonist in God mode or whatever, but it can still feel a bit over the top at times to see Revy, who is not supposed to be superhuman, do all sorts of seemingly superhuman things. Finally, one thing that did disappoint me a bit is that not all the characters in the series get as much attention as Rock or Revy. While I get that they are the protagonists of the series, I still think it would have been cool to focus on other people, especially since it would have been interesting to see their point of view. Still, I wouldn't say that any of the show's flaws ruin it in any way, and even then, I feel like the low points discussed are more of nitpicks, honestly. Therefore, if asked if I would recommend this anime, I would say a definite yes. Ranked and rated pretty high in the anime community, I would say for good reason. As stated before, if you enjoy watching cool action stuff while being given some stuff to think about, then I am sure you will love the show. So if you have somehow managed to overlook it up to now, I say you change that and don't pass up on the chance to watch it. But hey, that's just my opinion. And remember, don't take anything I say too seriously. After all, I'm just a wannabe reviewer. Thanks for watching.